You will be terminated. Nah, I'm just kidding. Welcome back to the Collector's Cave, boys and girls. Today we are looking at the Terminator Endoskeleton, and this is a 7-inch figure that comes from Neca. As I do believe we will have quite an interesting show today, as we will look at a beautiful figure. Looks pretty detailed to me, and it comes with quite an interesting package as well. We're coming right to the front, you can see the figure through this big window, which is a good thing maybe for those type of collectors that prefer to keep their figures in the box. And we can also see some type of weapon accessory. To the sides we do have the Terminator again, and the Endoskeleton inscription right down below. Also the logo of Cyberdyne Systems from the movie. To the back we have some quite interesting Terminator specs, let's say. I will not go through all of this because there's a lot of text there, and I know maybe you have some more interesting things to do than listening to me how I read all this stuff to you. And I am quite excited to take a look in this box. It will be a quite an interesting thing to look at because I am a Terminator fan myself. These are actually movies I grew up with, and let's get down to business and open this box. Finally got the Terminator out of the package, and I must say it is a sight to look at. The figure itself is amazing, but before we go to that, as you're probably got used to by now, we will take a look at the accessories. The single accessory that this figure comes with is its weapon, and we are going to take a closer look at it. We are now having a look at the weapon of the Terminator Endoskeleton figure from Neca. Now, as I've seen with many of these, mine also had an issue that the tip of the weapon was actually bent on both of these barrels, and I had to pull out my hair dryer to actually straighten this up. Now this was pretty easy to do, but I did notice is sort of a common issue with this model of figure. The gun itself looks quite interesting. It does look movie accurate. Also, there's an interesting idea of having this clip to the back side of a weapon instead of somewhere in the holster or somewhere in the front, as we are used to have with these types of weapon. But then again, this is a Terminator's gun, so yeah, it's a more futuristic sci-fi approach to it, and I must say I do like the gun. Also, the figure, it's quite able to hold the gun in its hand quite easily using this provided holster right here. Going now close and personal to the Terminator's head sculpt, I can only say that it looks pretty good. It does have quite the amazing detail level. It does look movie accurate, and I can only say that I love it. Also, there is a red tint to his eyes. Well, maybe not that well said that they're actually cameras. And there I do like the different shading on his teeth right here. That makes it look quite even more interesting, as those would be human teeth, and they look quite interesting placed in all these metallic and mechanical parts, and it sure gives him that distinct Terminator look to it. Now, there's really not that much possible articulation to his head, and this is pretty much hindered because there are plenty of parts that are going and are actually attached to his head, and this will hinder his head movement quite a lot. Maybe there's some slight movement possible, but really not that much. Then again, this figure has so many interesting and intricate parts that I will be willing to give up that head movement any day for the things that I will show you next. I will show you now actually the main reason why I believe this is actually a very amazing figure, 7-inch figure especially, and that is to the fact that it actually has moving pistons, actually working pistons in his body. And that is not only amazing to the mechanical design side of the figure, of the robot, let's say, but it's actually quite interesting when you try to pose it and actually move it. And I will show you that right to this waist joints, when you actually move it, you can see the pistons actually shifting their positions. Not only that, but compressing and depressing to the way the torso is actually being moved. And that is something I really like about this figure. And that is not only present here, but it goes through all out the body. And I will show you that, let's say with the hand. You can see the two pistons right there, the joint. And as you move his hand, you can notice the way the pistons again move, compress and depress. And yeah, that's an amazing figure. I've never seen this on a figure before, never let alone on a 7-inch figure. And that's really what blew my mind about it, and I really love it. Also, this goes for the feet of the figure itself. The Terminator can also have quite a nice movement range in his legs. You wouldn't believe that, because you would see this pieces and say, oh, maybe that's just sculpted that way, and maybe his feet don't move. And that could be more wrong than that, because they actually move, and they move quite a nice range. And those pistons again working, doing their job. You can see the way you can actually move these feet. And again, I believe that's quite an amazing figure. And having this transposed throughout the whole body of the Terminator, I think that's amazing. This endoskeleton is really cool. Also, there are some downsides that come with that. All these intricate pieces, some may be quite fragile and might break off quite easily. So you should always handle with care this figure, because there's a good chance you might break something. And there's plenty of pieces, and they do look rather thin. So just take to the mind, if you are posing this or you are taking photos of this figure, while posing it, be very careful not to break anything of all these detailed and thin parts. It is now time to have a short overview of this figure's articulation. As I told you before, not much movement to the head, and that is mainly because of all the parts that are attached to its head. Then, in the hands, you have quite a good range of movement up and down, his shoulders right here, and there's also front to back swivel as well, but that is kind of limited because you have this tiny piece of tubing that actually connects to the body, to his shoulder right here, and that might pop off, so you would quite want to be careful while doing this. I'm sure it could be easily placed back, but nonetheless, there is good movement here. And going down, there is also in his lower arm movement up and down as well. And there is no rotation possible to his hand. Okay, that's quite interesting. So in his right hand, I don't really see possibility to rotate it. Maybe it could, but it does seem really tight, this joint, and I wouldn't like to be actually breaking it. To the other hand goes just the same, the movement. Also, again, be wary of that tubing, not to pop it off while you're actually adjusting his hand. Again, same elbow movement as the other hand. And maybe there could be hand rotation, but I don't really know. Again, it really seems, oh yeah, most definitely there is hand rotation. Mine just had a tight joint. I might use my blow dryer on the other one so I can get the other one moving as well. To the torso, we do have movement, quite a nice range. Again, because of those sweet moving pistons to his torso, and there is a small movement here. There's some type of hatch that actually moves, that panel that actually moves, and that is done in such a way that would actually allow this movement to actually take place. As if that would be a solid piece, this would be pretty much unmovable. But again, Neca really did a great job on this figure's articulation and detailing, and that's just another bonus point for the Terminator here. To the feet, we do have quite some movement possible. Now this is limited to some degree by those pistons, so you should handle with care not to break those while posing. But even so, there is some range to his feet, and yeah, I think it offers you quite a good possibility of actually posing the figure and actually displaying it in quite a varied range of ways. Now, coming back to the ankle, there's also, again, it's a bit tight, but there is articulation right here. And going down to the feet, they also have, I think, a rotation, but again, it's pretty tight. I might have, again, to use my blow dryer here and see if I can get these joints to move. And amazingly enough, there's a joint to his feet, and that's to the toes. Quite interesting thing, but again, amazing detailing and articulation by Neca in this figure. I think about articulation wise, there are, I don't know, a lot of things going on. You have the shoulder pads that actually open up. You actually have the Neca logo underneath there. I believe they're amazing. There's so many moving parts on this figure that I don't know if I should count as articulation or not, but I guess they are. You could count every single piston on this guy that's actually moving as an articulation, and that's quite amazing. Drawing the line and having a conclusion in this little review video I made for you guys, I can state that the Terminator Endoskeleton T-800, it's a great addition to your shelf, either if you are a Terminator fan or not. This will look very, very good on your shelf. Neca did a great job with all the articulation, with all the small parts and detailing that's going on in this figure. And as you can see, I had a small pre-pose here, something that would come maybe from a movie standpoint, and you can see you can quite easily pose this figure without any issues. And I do believe it looks amazing from any angle you would actually look at it. And if you are actually a Terminator fan, and maybe you have some other Terminator figures, 7-inch figures, this will be fitting right in, maybe next to the other variants of the Terminator that Neca does have in its portfolio and its collections. So I would highly recommend, if you did not yet do so, do add the Terminator Endoskeleton to your collection. I am quite happy with it, and I really appreciate all the work Neca has done with all the pistons and all the moving parts and all the details all around the endoskeleton. Quite pleased with it, and I think it's a great addition to my collection and to my shelf, and I believe that this could be very nice addition to your collections as well, even if you are a Terminator fan or not. To conclude, do not forget, if you do like what's happening in the Collector's Cave, do click that subscribe button so you will be updated with the future videos of cool figures that are coming your way. And do not forget to always have fun, enjoy your hobby, have a great time with your figures, even if you're opening them or not, doesn't matter. You should always have fun with your passion and keep on collecting.